All right. Welcome everyone to our Wellness Wednesday tonight, I should say. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know people are very, very busy. And so the fact that you set aside 30 minutes to be with us, we are very grateful for that. So thank you so much. We have a very interesting topic for you, and I think super, super timely. We are talking about seasonal affective disorder, otherwise known as SAD, which also is very appropriately named. I think more than ever right now is a time where we see an awful lot of this. So really excited to share this information with you guys. This is just a really good opportunity for you guys to learn about it. And our goal obviously is to provide you with lots of education and provide you with the tools and strategies to better handle these situations. I myself, my name is Regina Anderson, and I'm from Hastings, Nebraska. And I have been with LifeVantage now for 5 years. I'm a wife, a mom, a grandma, and I've been a registered nurse for over 35 years. So I have seen a lot of different things in my professional career, and obviously depression, anxiety, things of that nature, mental health has been one of those things. And I'd like to share with you that when I was asked to help with this, first off, when I heard that it was going to be Dr. Brett, I was super excited. And the other thing is, I have a personal connection to this. My mother has lived with and struggled with depression and anxiety her entire life. So that means my entire life. So I know firsthand what it does to the person and what it does to everybody surrounding them, everybody who loves them. So I am really looking forward for you guys to hear all this great information that Dr. Brett Brimhall is going to share with you. Dr. Brett is a chiropractor. He's been doing this for over 20 years. He has a wealth of knowledge, and he definitely has a very holistic approach to things. So I am going to turn it over to you, Dr. Brett. And the first thing that I would like to just have you touch on is just, first of all, explain to everybody what seasonal affective disorder is.
I appreciate you doing this. And the reality is, you guys all know nurses are the best, right? Because they have to deal with doctors and they talk to real people, right? But I love that you shared your story about your mom. At the end of the day, when somebody that you love struggles, they have the struggle and you also experience it. And we were talking about that earlier, you and I, before, and about how she tend to get worse during this time of the year, right? And why that might be. And so what we hope to accomplish tonight, everybody, is to give you maybe some understanding, some hope, some tools, and some things to apply. And part of that comes in is an understanding. So I'm grateful that you're a nurse, and I'm grateful that you had that experience to draw upon to help us maybe have a better understanding. Because what if there were some things that could have been done if you had only known, right? And I promise you after tonight you'll know. So we call a seasonal affective disorder, that's for short, or SAD. It's a typically it's a time of a year where people tend to have more depression, anxiety, and mental health things, and it relates a lot of times to the time of year where things get cold and less sunlight, right? And so for those of you that don't live in Arizona, like me, right, or in Hawaii, where it's pretty much sunny and fairly warm, this is a real thing all the time. Like, it's once you're above certain hemisphere, like literally, like people this time of year, they get cold, they get more sad, and they struggle. Like, even in Arizona, my wife, kid you not, like this time of year, like I have to double her vitamin D every year because she's not in the sun like she normally would be, right? And so when people don't get enough sunlight, that, by the way, that's literally how your brain knows when it's supposed to go to sleep and when it's supposed to wake up, right? When it doesn't have that, it doesn't produce vitamin D the way it should, which is going to affect how you feel mentally, right? Drastically. And so what you'll see a lot now is you'll see a lot of people this time of year doing more vitamin D. And if you're not, you should be, right? And so that's, in short, that's what senile infection disorder. It affects people even when there is, even when it's not this time of year. One, because they're not getting enough light. They call it something a little different, but you're seeing a lot of people that they literally work night shift, or where they're mostly like in around artificial light too much. They'll also have some of the same symptoms as somebody with senile affective disorder. Like you're seeing this a lot in the young adulthood, that literally their whole lives are on computers. You're seeing that.
That's very interesting. You had mentioned the brain. And so I wondered if you would just touch briefly a little bit and kind of high level view and kind of dummy it down just a little bit, Dr. Brett, because the pathophysiology is kind of interesting. And when you mentioned the brain, what are some of the things, or help us understand kind of things that can lead to this or underlying causes of SAD other than
Yeah,
the sunlight?
totally, totally. Now that pathophysiology, that's a big word.
Yeah.
So what that means, guys, is what caused the problem. you know, and so, oh, here's what's interesting. And I'm kind of a simple guy, right? And I think about like babies. Anybody's been around a baby, or anybody that has had a kid, they know that they need to be on a schedule, right? Because if you take a baby off the schedule, what happens? They ain't happy, and you're not happy, right? And what happens to a baby when off their schedule? Well, they don't sleep good. They're more fussy. They're more irritable. They get sick easier, right? So what takes them off the schedule? They're not eating at the same time. They're not sleeping at the same time, and they're not getting playtime, right? So the short is, when the brain and the body are disconnected, there's going to be a battle. All right. And when your brain and your body aren't getting what they need, they're going to complain like a 2-year-old. But what that's going to look like to you and me, if it's us, we're not going to sleep as good. We're going to be a little grouchier, right? We're going to be more irritated. We might crave things that we don't want to crave. They can lead to weight gain and other things like that, right? So the schedule, right, that you have yourself on, or lack thereof, a lot of that is leading directly to your demise. All right. And so just with seasonal affective disorder, it shows up more because it's just one more thing, and it relates to the sunlight, which you can't really change. Right. So you have to artificially put sunlight in somewhere else, otherwise you can have an issue. Does that help?
Yes, absolutely. And that kind of leads me to another question here. What is your approach to treating seasonal affective disorder? And I wanted to just quote you actually, so people can understand you even a little bit better too. But you had said the real game changer in learning to be proactive in our health and treat the whole body and not just the symptoms. Expand on that a little bit and tell us
Yeah,
what your approach is.
yeah, and what I love about the nursing world is I think you guys spend the time with people to get to see people.
Mhm.
Like it's the person, not the diagnosis, not the condition, not the medication. It's the person. All right. And so when somebody's experiencing, like, feeling sad, right? Well, why are they sad? Like, are they sad because they have low vitamin D? Are they sad because a loved one just passed away? Are they sad because they just had a breakup? Are they sad because they've been eating super crappy? Right. And so when I talk about treating the person holistically, is let's treat the person. Like, let's ask the question. If you went to a vet and your dog was sick, they'd ask you, well, how's the dog acting? What's the dog eating? How's the dog sleeping? Yet we don't do that with humans, and it makes zero sense to me. All right. And so what we need to do as individuals is take personal accountability and start asking those questions. And maybe you have been eating really bad, or maybe you don't know how to eat right. Maybe you don't know, like, hey, if I don't have enough serotonin, my brain's not happy. And you don't know that you have to have tryptophan, which comes from a protein. Like, no one taught you that. So, well, let's get your body eating protein and the right type of fats from fish oils so your brain can be happier. Like, literally, if you just did that, you're going to be happier. Right. And so, but that is also true in anything. Like, so if somebody, like, again, if I told my kid, hey, go learn calculus, which, by the way, I don't know calculus, right? Well, and I give them a book, what's the odds of them being successful? But if I got them with a calculus teacher that was really good, they have much more success. So when it comes to what you're feeling or what you're experiencing, and maybe you just had an extreme loss in your life and you're not sure how to process that. So yeah, you feeling depressed or you're feeling anxious doesn't mean you're depressed. Doesn't mean you're anxious. Doesn't mean you're clinically that way. It just means, hey, I'm really, really sad. I'm not sure how to process death. Well, great. Let's find you someone to help you work through that feeling. And some of that can be influenced by diet. Some of that can be influenced by sleep. Some of that can be influenced by the right nutritional supplementation and the right people to work with. So when we're talking about holistically, and being part of LifeVantage like we are, I love that is that yes, there are key products that are absolutely involved, but there are also key information that we need to have, right, to be able to help people have higher levels of success in life. And especially during this time of year, because for this time of year, some people, this is not their happy time of year. My wife absolutely loves Christmas, but she told me yesterday, she said, I love Christmas, but I'm not sure I like December anymore. The stress of it all, right? Or just the thing, right? And so sometimes there's just a tough time of year. And so if we can talk about that, but also understand, okay, well, what happens this time of year? Well, people eat really crappy, right? Well, does that affect your brain? Absolutely 100%, right? Do people not sleep good this time of year? Sometimes. So guess what? There's some things we can change there.
One of the things that I have seen over and over and over when I do bring patients back and I do their intakes and I'm going over their med lists, those med lists are getting longer and longer and longer. And what I find is that they may be on one prescription for something that then causes side effects. And then they're put on another prescription to take care of the side effects from that first med. And the list just keeps getting longer and longer and longer. And I think one of the things that really excited me about the LifeVantage products were that they truly get at the root cause. And it's incredible. And the science is so strong. And so I would really love for you to share some of that with the fine folks on this call.
Absolutely. And here's some key elements for all you guys, no matter who you are, whether you have symptoms of seasonal affective disorder or, other feeling anxious or depressed or sad, just know that you can benefit, right? And when life hits you, which it will, the healthier you are going into that, the better you're going to do. It's just a reality. It's just how it goes, right? And so the habits and tools and strategies that you're using today will not only help you today, but help you long term. All right. And so what I love about being a part of LifeVantage is that, and this is the same thing true in medicine, even in natural medicine, is that we tend to treat symptoms. Like we tend to treat the symptom, right, versus the understanding what's the process, okay, or the system versus the symptom. So, for instance, like with anxiety and depression, a lot of people are given medication, which absolutely have their place. Like, so what like Wellbutrin or Paxil, those are what's called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. But what they do is, I always ask people when they're on the medication, what is that doing for you? How is it working? And most of them don't know, and that's okay. But I want them to think that way. I want us all to think that way, right? Because I want them to think, well, if it is helping me, why is it helping me? Right? Because I don't know a lot of people that want more medication, and I don't know a lot of people that were born with a medication deficiency. All right, but if they need a medication, there's a reason. We need to understand why. So, for instance, like with a drug like an SSRI, they work by helping the body hold on to serotonin longer. Okay, well, serotonin is made in your body from a protein called tryptophan. We always joke, well, you eat turkey, it makes you tired because of tryptophan. Okay, so in other words, if you don't have tryptophan, it's super hard to make serotonin. And here's the crazy part. Yeah, most of your serotonin is made in your gut, not your brain. So no matter how much good food you eat, if your gut intestinal tract is not doing well, you won't absorb what you can. That's like paying the IRS extra, right?
So I want all the money in my bank account that I can get there. So if you don't have a healthy digestive tract, right? Super, super important for SAD, seasonal infectious disorder, to make sure we're focused on that. So postbiotics, prebiotics, those are critical, and probiotics are all critical to have good gut function. All right. So I love that LifeVantage had a lot of focus on helping have a healthy gut, right? So that's foundational, right? But on top of that, for your brain to experience happiness, it has to have a good nervous system, and it has to have good hormones. The backbone of all your hormones is a essential fatty acid. So short answer, that's fish oils. So if we don't eat adequate levels of fish oils, your brain cannot manufacture good hormones, and it cannot have a good, healthy brain response, right? And just for you that are moms, right, literally every child you have drops your fatty acid level, unless you're doing things about that. Like, and you can probably feel, you got here, probably think, man, every kid I got, I feel like I got a little dumber, right? It's just like that's because the baby gets 60% of the nutrients, you get 40. Okay, and if you didn't replace that, then that's going to affect your brain cognition, but it's going to affect your happiness level. On top of all that is then addressing how your body makes energy, how your body repairs, and then giving your brain the fuel that it needs to be happy. Right. So I always talk when people are on antidepressant, I like to ask, well, how does it work? And I ask, well, then are you eating enough protein? And most of them say no. I said, well, are you taking fish oils? Most of them say no. I said, well, have you ever addressed the brain fatigue you have? And then is there a way to do that? I said, yes. And the Axial drink, if you guys aren't familiar with that, whoever invited you, it's like, find out what that is, because that literally was designed to address brain fatigue. So brain fatigue in some people literally feels like sadness. Others, it feels like they can't hold their focus, right? So if you could address brain fatigue, give your body the right stuff to make good hormones and fast, and then have the tutor show up to teach you skill sets. That's therapists, that's behavioral therapy, other things that, like, do that too. That's exercise for your brain. All right. But if you don't have fuel and you exercise, are you going to get the same benefit that if you had the fuel and you had the exercise? It's going to be a vastly different experience.
Now, you mentioned fish oils. Now, all fish oils are not created the same.
No.
Please explain some of the benefits that our fish oils
has. So fish oils are super critical, guys, super critical. And I guess I shouldn't pick on a certain brand or not, but like, I don't know. I like sushi. You guys like sushi. Some of you guys, maybe. I do. I like good sushi, but I don't want old sushi. Like, that just sounds like really bad idea, like, for me, right? Okay. So if you buy a big bottle of fish oils that are in a big box store, like, how long has that been in that bottle? And how long is it going to be in that bottle till you finish the bottle? Right. So what I love about the fish oils LifeVantage produces is we know where they're caught. It's manufactured super quick, right? And it goes from boat to bottle to us. All right. And so, and I get mine every 30 days. All right. So I don't have to like worry about, well, how long did that fish get caught ago? And like, how long has it been sitting on the floor in a warehouse, and how long has it been in the store, and how many months is it going to take me to finish that bottle of 500 pills? Right. So, and the ratios of fatty acids that are the omega plus that LifeVantage makes are also super critical, especially for heart and brain. The DHA level is higher. And it has natural sources of vitamin D, which is where you should get them from anyway.
Correct. I was going through some of the questions, and I'm just going to fire this one here at you. Somebody had asked, how much protein should we have, and does it depend on where it comes from?
So good question. So how much protein you need is really dependent upon what your goal is, right? And some people do phenomenally well with plant-based protein, and some people can do well with animal-based protein, right? The bottom line is get as clean as protein as you possibly can. Get as much of your food from a raw source as you can, like vegetables. I'm not saying raw meat, but raw vegetables. And if you're going to do a lot of lifting weights and stuff like that, right, you need higher levels of protein. Okay. If you're like me, an O positive blood type, like if I don't get enough protein, I get grouchy. Okay. I have a very fast metabolism. And so I burn through protein faster than some. So you got to kind of find out, like, with my wife, that's not her. Like, she needs protein, but not the same concentration that I do. So it's kind of hard to say how much exactly, but a safe bet is about 30 to 40% of your calories from protein. At least 30. Okay. And the reality is, if it's in a box, a bag, or a can, it's got preservatives in it. And if you're into embalming yourself early, that's a good idea. If you're not, like, preservatives are added to allow it to have a longer shelf life. I don't want myself put on a shelf, right? And so just keep in mind, like, the more foods you can get that are from its natural state, the better it's going to be.
One of the things that I looked up in kind of preparing for this, and I just kind of think it tells everybody just how prevalent this is. I mean, it's up to 10% of the population suffer from SAD, and even higher, in places like Alaska that have less sunlight, things of that nature. The other thing that I found interesting is that when I went on PubMed.gov, and if some of you don't know that resource, that is the National Library of Medicine. That's where physicians go to research things, to find out the real truth, because those are peer-reviewed publications. And there is over 1,800 peer-reviewed publications just on seasonal affective disorders. So I think that says a whole lot about this. But the other thing that I think needs to be mentioned is the stigma that is associated with mental health issues. And that has always been a sore subject with me. People don't want to talk about it. People are embarrassed by it. And the thing that I have always said to loved ones and people that I care about, if you're diabetic, would you be embarrassed that you had to take insulin? If you had cancer, would you be embarrassed that you had to have surgery, chemo, or radiation? This really is no different. The other group of people that I think we should discuss is the younger people, and like the teenagers and the college kids. They've got an awful lot going on in their lives. What kind of things would you say in regards to that?
I really appreciate you bringing that up about just the stigmatism that's out there, the stigma, and because that's important to address. Like, let's not be afraid to have the conversation around it. Understand that there are times that medications are needed, and that we should be able to have a discussion. So, it's interesting you bring that question about college. So I have 2 kids in college. My daughter, who's my third, she graduates next year. So I have 3 kids in college next year. My 2 older boys have not gone to college the way I went. Like, it's literally been online, right? That's just the way it's been. And so our society is teaching, we're talking a lot about mental health, right? But it's interesting how many times I have kids come into my office and they're like 14, 15, 16, 17 or younger, and they're being told they have anxiety. They're being told they're depressed. And I always ask them, I says, so what do you mean? Like, what do you mean by that? Now, I said, look, you probably are experiencing anxiety. Absolutely. And you're probably absolutely experiencing depression at time, or feeling depressed, but I don't want you to feel like you own it. Right. So let's understand. So why might you feel that way, and what influence you have over it? What skill sets have you developed to maybe handle the situation you're going under? So right now, with the way the pandemic has been, there's just been some new things that none of us have experienced before. So we're kind of learning this as we go. But there's a big shift going on right now. People are trying to understand personal accountability, right? And what influence can I have over this? All right. So truly, to me, the more expensive medicine becomes, I think the better it is, in the sense of that we as humans have to say, okay, what role do I play in that to help me be healthy? Right. And that's where the foundation, you got to come back, because there are actually people that are going to have some chemical imbalances for different reasons that need to be addressed. But some of those chemical imbalances are self-induced. right? Through energy drink. So people that are drinking energy drinks, guys, they're drinking them because they're tired. If you're 16, 17, 18, 15, 14, and you're drinking energy because you're tired, that's a problem, right? That means they're looking for a quick fix. And that's what's got our society in trouble. So when it comes to these young people, I like to have those conversations. Now, look, we need to start looking at things differently. Yes, we need to develop different skill sets, but we need to support your body with the right nutrition that it needs. Because I can't tell you people that come in, especially kids, and I ask them these questions, they're not eating breakfast. They're eating mostly carbohydrates. They're on their devices until late at night. They're on their devices in all through school. And so all this artificial light's hitting their brain. So they're fatiguing their brain. And they're using energy drinks to get through the day. Well, none of that is going to have a brain be healthy. So yeah, we're going to have major issues with brain health if we don't address it. And right now, if we don't address it now, what's that look like when they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s? So it's going to come back to us having these conversations around, okay, let's understand, how does the brain really work? What does it really need? What influence do you have over it? And then teaching people like, hey, you need to start taking accountability for turning your phone off, feeding your body what right, and then supporting your body with the right nutrition that it needs in order for it to function ideally.
All such great advice. And I'm seeing really good comments in the chat section too. I mean, some people are doubling up on their fish oils at this time of the year. And I'm seeing a lot of comments on Axio. I know you had just mentioned it briefly, saying, get with the person who invited you about that. But energy drinks, oh my goodness, I just hate even hearing that. I hate seeing people with their Red Bulls and their 5-hour energy drinks.
Yeah.
So we do have just a few minutes. And I really do think that, especially when we were talking about the college age group, that Axio deserves just a little bit of time.
Yeah, let me hit this really hard right here. It was funny. I have like 6 energy drinks sitting on my shelf in my office, right? They're ones I've stolen from people or ones I bought to put there so people ask me the questions. But also on that shelf is a 44 ounce, thirst buster thing, and a big old Starbucks coffee cup. Okay, every generation has had their energy drink, whether it's coffee, soda, whatever it might have been. Okay, so guys, that stuff is literally gonna kill your brain cell. That just flat out is, right? But what it tells me is that people are needing mental energy. All right. So if they need mental energy, well, then let's make a better energy drink. Let's make an energy drink that addresses the mental fatigue that people are having. So when Axio was developed, it literally developed by an endurance athlete, because he said, look, we realize that people that are doing endurance sports, their brain fatigues before their body. They give up. Their brain gives up before their body gives up. And we've seen that time and again. There are people that can push their body to do all sorts of crazy things, but it's their brain that gives up. So what does the brain need in order to perform? And that's with an Axio. And what's unique about any of the LifeVantage products is the synergistic effect. So we're not trying to be a better B12 or a better folic acid or a better vitamin D. We're literally saying, hey, what is the recipe that the body needs to have in order to do its job and to get all the systems to fire together? So Axio literally, I think of it as liquid brain food. I think of it as what allows the brain to focus, it allows it to click on all cylinders, because if your brain functions, you learn, you retain, you remember, and you can recall it when you need to. All right. If the brain is not, we where are my keys? What is their name? Right? All those things. So that sensation of I can't remember where my keys are, that's your brain fatiguing. Well, we don't want that a little bit at all if we can, because the more of that occurs, the more length of time that is, the more brain cell damage we're having. That actually has a huge effect upon that. And combine that with the gut health and the omegas, we can change people's brain trajectory not only today, but when you read stuff on Alzheimer's and things of that nature down the road. And this is what really needs to matter. So when you're talking about senile affective disorder and brain health, if we're not addressing it now, it's going to show up down the road in some not friendly places. And unfortunately, women are more susceptible than men at that. And part of it goes back to their fatty acid concentrations are not what they should be. And they've been told forever to eat low fat. And they've had multiple kids and not eating enough fish oil. And most of us, like, if you're truly honest with yourself, how many of you eat like good, like fresh, wild caught fish routinely? Like, I'm in Arizona. There's no like fresh fish unless it's flown in, right? So we eat it, but like I get it from my brother from Alaska, right? But like other than that, like we're just not getting enough. So you got to get it from another source.
And definitely in Nebraska, we are pretty landlocked. So we definitely, Mrs.
Yes.
Smith,
Yeah,
whatever.
and you guys
That's
get a
where
lot
we
of
get
corn.
ours, right?
Yeah, and you guys have a lot of corn.
Yes, we
You know,
do.
and so and a lot of our beef that was grass fed is now corn fed. It sure tastes good, but it's omega-6 animals that makes the ratio bad, which creates more neural inflammation. Just because it tastes good doesn't mean it's good for you.
Yes. Such great information. Oh my goodness. I'm sure everybody just took away so many golden nuggets here tonight. It's just been a pleasure, Dr. Brimhall. I wish we had an hour to talk about this, but we do try to keep these to around 30 minutes. We do want to invite everybody to our next call. We are going to be taking next week off because of Christmas. We want everybody to enjoy being around their loved ones and enjoy the holiday season, but we will be gathering again on December 29th. And we're going to be kind of talking about hitting a reset button. And what perfect timing. We're going to be done with 2021, right? We're going to be looking forward to 2022, and we're going to be looking at the entire body, the mind, the body, and the spirit, and what we can do to maximize things and create really healthy habits. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this. I know I did. You always teach me so much, Dr. Brett. And on behalf of both of us, we would like to thank you for joining us tonight, and have a blessed holiday season. And we will see you all back here again on December 29th.
Merry Christmas, y'all.
Merry Christmas.
Bye, guys.